Hello, my name is Tori Smith, and I would like to do a child trafficking report for the MILAB child trafficking operation, which is owned by DARPA. Which is operated by DARPA and the CIA, and was created and owned by the Bush family. I'd like to do this for the 6th of May, which was Friday, where 274 children were brought to America by 3 sources and then distributed to 18 locations. Now, in the period from April 15th to May the 10th, a total of 3,622 children were murdered. Now, on this day, AFRICOM brought in 77 children, SOCOM 52, and the Air Force 149. And in the past, I've been into this cycle because I wanted people to know it's basically been, okay, well, 10 children were raped by, 75 men, a total of 300 times. And just repeating that over and over again, it becomes a little monotonous and generic and a little bit of cold. It's just like statistical reporting. And so I'm going to take like a little bit of a turn. And what I'd like to do now is highlight one of the children every day. And but AFRICOM, what they're going to, and this is happening quite often with AFRICOM. Now, a lot of these men are military men, very dark entity military men, and what they do is they go into villages, and a couple days here right in a row, there's a Central African Republic, and then another country called the Congo, and this village where these 77 children were taken from, well, I think there were not specifically in one location, but it was right there along the border in several locations. Sorry, I had to get the phone. Okay, and they have a big history of going into a village and killing the adults and taking the children. In this case, 114 adults were murdered, and 77 children were there. But what's interesting about this is that the AFRICOM forced the children to watch the murders of their family, to watch the elders that have been taking care of them their whole life. And this is one of the things that the reptilian humans love to do. And, because they basically have the mentality of a crocodile or an alligator. They're just, in sentient person form. And they absolutely love to kill humans. I mean, I've seen them do it. They just go into like this frenzy. It's really disgusting. And they're basically the Nazi concentration camp people, just in different bodies. And then they took them to a location where the AFRICOM is, and then they all raped the children there. And all these children were like really hardworking children. And, they didn't have a lot of playtime, and I could see images of them, and they were carrying baskets on their head. They were carrying buckets of water. They had a really hard lifestyle. Not a lot of play, but a lot of work. And then SOCOM, the United States Southern Command, which is another child trafficking agency, brought 52 children up from Brazil. And these were picked up from a police station where they had been raped 64 times. And all but 2 of them were raped. And then SOCOM raped 16 children, 16 of them on the way here. And then the Air Force, 149 children, were taken from the Shanghai MILAB. And China and North Korea and Japan have been selling children to the United States for a long time. And that's where a lot of the technology came from DARPA, because DARPA was exchanging children for high technology. They knew a lot of people that had a lot of high technology, and that was how they paid for them with human children. Mostly, from here in the United States. Arlington, Virginia was one of their main locations for a long time. Now it's Roswell. And they were taken from the Shanghai MILAB, where these 149 children were raped a total of 1,017 times. And both AFRICOM and the Chinese military, they'll kill people and then they'll take the children. Or they just abduct the children in the street and then, move on. And SOCOM has been placing a lot of ads in newspapers promising a new life for children. If you're too poor to take care of your child, You can let the child come to America. We'll give him food and medicine and housing and education. Of course, all that's a lie. They're usually dead within 72 hours. Gang raped and murdered. And then to give you an idea, I'll give you some. That Roswell had 49 children that day. Dulce had 66. Denver 18. Dallas 21. Houston 18. Chicago number 2 9. Indianapolis has 16. There's a TSA location up here in Michigan. It's near Kalamazoo. They had 6 children that day. And Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Langley, Arlington, Boston, Montauk, New York, Nellis Air Force Base, Las Vegas had 12 because the casino owners and the hoteliers like to rape children, so they go to the Air Force Base. And Los Angeles, number 2. But I would like to bring attention to this little girl, and I think I got close to her name. Names are very difficult for me. But what I got was Sou Yung Li. And she was a 5-year-old girl that was raped by 206 males, a total of 413 times. One 5-year-old girl was raped 413 times. And they like to drug the children, so they're very, almost in a coma anyway. That's because when they murder the children, they like to choke them to death, and they like the death of the child to be at the same moment they ejaculate into the child. And so they like to have them drugged up so that they're very easy to kill, and that the way they don't scratch or fight back or anything. And she was the favorite girl of the Chinese males participating in this child trafficking operation. But what came up with this little girl is how much she loved flowers. And I could see her walking with her mom, and she would always hold her mom's hand. And, they'd be, walking by a park or whatever, and all of a sudden she would just start pulling her mom. Oh, Mom, here's the flowers, there's the flowers. And so she would drag her mom over to the flower bed, and her face would light up. And, she just absolutely loved flowers, and they just brought such joy to her life. And then she also liked to pick flowers and give them to the elders in her neighborhood. And she would do that. She would go in and, grab 3 or 4 or 5 flowers and then take them to the old ladies and stuff in the neighborhood or couples, just to brighten their day. And her favorite colors of flowers were blue, pink, and purple. And most of the dresses, this little girl, she wore really simple dresses. They almost looked like big T-shirts, but they all had flowers on them. Almost all of her clothes were covered in flowers. And so I took a look at her lifetime right before this one, and because I thought with all these flowers, there's just so many images of flowers with this little girl, and I was like, she had to be a florist. I bet she was. And so, I looked at one lifetime before this one, and she was a florist, but she lived in Portugal, and she was a florist for her whole life there. She was murdered in Denver, at the Denver MILAB, by a 26-year-old Navy SEAL. And this little 5-year-old girl was the prize for this Navy SEAL who murdered 17 people in Syria. And that's one thing. This is one of the reasons I'm so angry about the United States military, is because they reward their soldiers who murder mostly innocent civilians. They reward these soldiers with children, and so they can be raped and then murdered. But that's very, very typical for the United States military. And I just want to say thank you for your prayers. In the past few days, there's been a lot of changes with the weapons they use on it, the scalar weapons, the broadcast weapons, and there has been a big difference in that. And, thank you for your prayers for closing down this child trafficking operation, because even one child murdered, but 3,600 just in a matter of not even a full month. And I think it was $2.2 billion was spent of United States taxpayers' money for the month of April alone. $2.2 billion was spent so politicians, military, police officers, and corporate executives could gang rape and murder children. Thank you. God bless your hearts.